My name is Layla. I was a devoted Muslim, steeped in tradition, my faith a guiding star in the intricate tapestry of my life. For years, I immersed myself in the teachings of the Qur'an, beloved by my family, a pillar of my community. I was thriving, but beneath the surface, an insatiable hunger clawed at my soul. I often found myself whispering silent prayers, yearning for a presence that felt closer than the ink on the pages I cherished. What I longed for was more than mere belief. I sought connection, a tangible touch of the divine. Then, everything changed on an ordinary night. A drive through the vibrant streets of Casablanca morphed into a nightmare. In an instant, I was engulfed by darkness. My car spun out of control, and crumpled metal swallowed me whole. I plunged into the abyss, a void that seemed infinite, where time and existence blurred. It was in that profound stillness, when I hovered between life and death, that the most extraordinary encounter unveiled itself. In that space of shadow, I was met by a radiant figure, Jesus. He stood before me, emanating love and forgiveness, yet with an urgency that gripped my heart. "The battle for souls is raging, Layla," he said, his voice reverberating through my very being. I witnessed visions that shattered everything I thought I knew, hidden agendas crafted by the elite, deceit woven into the fabric of our societies, and manipulation lurking behind every corner. In that moment, I not only saw the truth, I became a part of a spiritual war that demanded my awakening. This experience ignited a fire within me, a calling to rise and expose the darkness that veiled our world. As I traversed the corridors of my faith, I realized the urgency to share this revelation wasn't merely for me, it echoed for humanity as a whole. I awoke not only from my personal slumber, but to a deeper truth. We, as a collective, are being summoned to rise against the forces that seek to blind us. Now, I stand at a crossroads, compelled to speak out. My journey from tradition to awakening has only just begun, and I invite you to join me in this exploration of truth. Before we dive deeper, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Your voice matters in this unfolding revelation. And be sure to subscribe to Truth from Beyond to stay connected. What I'm about to unfold could very well change the course of our spiritual awakening forever. Your transformation awaits. I remember the suffocating weight of expectations, the pride that enveloped my every move as I walked the streets of Casablanca. My father, a respected Islamic professor, had molded me in traditions steeped in faith. Being a Muslim here wasn't just about rituals and prayers, it was an identity wrapped in honor and lineage. I was known for my devotion, my poetry, and my deep engagement with the Qur'an. Yet, amid the verses and teachings, a gnawing sense of disconnect stirred within me. I yearned for a God who felt more tangible than the pages I recited from, a God who would touch my soul rather than just dwell in the lines of ancient texts. Everything changed on a fateful evening. I was driving home from a gathering, my mind adrift in thought. The world outside, a blur. Suddenly, a vehicle collided with mine, metal crumpling like paper, and I felt the disorientation of a sudden fall into darkness. I hovered between life and a relentless void. It was here, in the abyss, that my near-death experience began. A moment stretching infinitely, where time lost its meaning. I saw visions flashing before my eyes, colors danced, and sounds merged into a symphony of existence itself. And then, in the heart of that cosmic darkness, I saw him, Jesus. His presence radiated love, warmth, and an overwhelming sense of peace. He wasn't just a figure from scripture, he embodied the essence of compassion itself. As I approached, an inexplicable truth washed over me. This was a spiritual war, a battle between light and darkness, with humanity caught in the crossfire. He revealed to me the hidden agendas of our leaders, how the elite maneuvered society like chess pieces for their own gain, how deception cloaked the truth, spinning narratives that suited their needs. I felt the weight of the world's injustices, as if they were my own, an awakening that pierced through the veil of ignorance I had unknowingly worn. Each revelation struck me deeply. I saw the wars we waged, not just on battlefields but in the hearts of men, the divisions sown carefully by those in power to distract and manipulate. I witnessed technology not as a means of advancement, but as a tool of surveillance and oppression, designed to keep the truth obscured from the masses. It was a moment of clarity that felt almost unbearable, a sense that I was being handed a mission, not just to awaken myself, but to awaken others. Time and time again, I understood that those in the shadows used fear as a weapon, pitting us against each other, while the true enemy thrived in the chaos. The vision spun faster, and I felt the urgency to act, to reveal the revelations entrusted to me. But there was more. I saw our future, a world teetering on the brink of a precipice, where the division grew wider and deeper, leaders whose hearts were hardened, sowing discord while hiding their own shortcomings. Jesus urged me to stand firm in the truth, to carry the message beyond the confines of my comfort zone. It was a call to stand against the tide, to speak out even when silence was easier. My heart raced. How could I navigate this truth amid the societal expectations that loomed over me? Just as I began to grasp the magnitude of my task, darkness threatened to swallow me whole again. With a final piercing look, Jesus beckoned me back. "You have seen the light," he said, "but the journey has just begun." The warmth of his gaze lingered as I felt my consciousness being pulled back to my body, the pain of reality crashing in as I gasped for breath. But the revelations, the truth, and the weight of the spiritual war remained etched in my heart. I awakened, not just to life, but to a profound realization. My soul's purpose had transformed into a mission against the tide of deception. And in that moment, I knew that I had a choice to make. A path to follow that would lead me into the depths of my own awakening, but also to that of others. The journey ahead would not be easy. With enemies as fierce as the truths I held, I felt the pulse of a greater struggle surrounding me, the stand against the powers that sought to keep us perpetually blind. I was now on the edge of a revelation that would mark the turning point in my life, teetering between old loyalties and newfound convictions. My life had always revolved around the ordinary. I was a factory worker, a father, a man of simple pleasures and dreams confined within the rhythms of daily existence. Each morning, I'd wake up to the same sound of the alarm clock, blaring, get dressed in my worn-out jeans and t-shirt, and step into the bustling world of machinery and assembly lines. The days cascaded together until they became a blur, each one bleeding into the next. I took pride in the work I did, a silent contributor to the larger wheel of society. Between the noise of the machines, I found moments to reflect. Yet as the years passed, the vibrancy faded. Beneath my responsibilities, I felt a gnawing emptiness creeping in, a silent longing that whispered for more, a connection to something greater than myself. It was on an ordinary Tuesday, a day like any other, when everything changed. I was having my lunch break, sitting outside, embracing the warmth of the sun on my face, when an unexpected pain exploded in my chest. It spread like wildfire, consuming my breath and leaving me gasping for air. In an instant, the world flipped upside down. I collapsed to the ground, the sky spinning above me, and just as darkness began to seep into my consciousness, I slipped away. I felt myself entering a void, a place where sound and light faded into nothingness. Then, unexpectedly, there was a shift. I was standing, though not on any ground I knew. Before me was a brilliant light, a loving presence, magnificent and radiant. At once, I sensed a deep familiarity, an unconditional love emanating from this being. It was Jesus. In that moment, he looked into the very core of my being, exposing not just my soul, but the tapestry of the world around me. "You've been so steeped in the mundane," he said gently, "but there's far more than you've been led to understand." He unveiled to me a multitude of truths, weaving narratives of hidden agendas and orchestrated deception. I saw flashes of current events, wars inflamed by manipulating leaders, social divisions deepened by propaganda, and technology wielded as a tool of control by the elite. Each scene was harsh and raw, yet laced with a profound urgency. "Open your eyes, my son," he urged. "The eyes of humanity are clouded, trapped in a spiritual war that barely whispers its existence." Images unfolded before me, painting a tableau of humanity entangled in web of lies, blinded by greed. I saw people fighting over scraps of ambition, living behind screens that curated their realities while pivotal truths lay hidden in the shadows. Leaders emerged, robed in power, dictating lives while communities deteriorated, and all I could feel was heart-wrenching sorrow. I found myself wading through the depths of despair as Jesus showed me the sorrow of the world and the collective spirit that craved salvation. "You are not only a witness," he reminded me, "but a vessel for this revelation. Your awakening is intertwined with the awakening of humanity." The path laid before me was daunting, and the weight of responsibility sank deep. I understood then. It wasn't just about me. It was about confronting the darkness that loomed over us all. With each word he spoke, intense. Visions flooded my mind. I could see families torn apart by ideological divides, communities left to fend for themselves amid the chaos instigated by those who would rather see us divided than united. Technology, instead of uniting us, served as a rift, widening the chasms of misunderstanding, fostering division. "There are millions waiting for a voice," he said, "and you must stand up against the tide of complacency." His presence shifted the very fabric of my being, igniting a flame within me. A call to action that transcended my mundane existence. The sensation of urgency clawed at my heart. I was being propelled into a mission that demanded more than passive faith. Just as I felt the warmth of hope inching into my core, the ground beneath me began to swirl, enveloping me in a tunnel of vivid images and voices disintegrating into chaos. I struggled, desperate to hold on to the truths I had just glimpsed, yearning to etch them deep within my soul. Farewell for now, but remember, your awakening, it begins here and now, Jesus offered as the light began to fade. I could feel myself being pulled back, vaguely aware of the world returning. Suddenly, I was gasping for breath on the cold factory floor, the mundane noises snapping me back to a reality I had long ago accepted. Clutching my chest, uncertainty flooded my mind. How could I share these revelations, this urgency that pulsed through my veins? The fear of the unknown crept in, but I understood I wasn't meant to fade. Back into normalcy. I was called to break the silence, to challenge the narratives spun around us. There was a journey ahead, and as I stood up, I could feel the crossing of thresholds, beckoning me to step forward into the unknown. I spent years living in the shadows of my own existence, a blue-collar worker, immersing myself in routines that seemed drab yet comfortable. I drove long hours along the highways, each mile reflecting my own path, twisting and turning, leading nowhere. I was just a faceless name among many, one person in a sea of humanity, a provider for my family, a role that consumed me but also left me feeling hollow. Each day I would return home, exhausted yet yearning for something deeper, something I couldn't quite grasp. While I worked diligently to ensure my family had food on the table, a gnawing absence enveloped my spirit, a longing that seemed to call from somewhere far beyond the confines of my daily life. One fateful night, everything changed. I was driving home under the weight of fatigue, my mind drifting between the mundane and the profound. Suddenly, I lost control, and the impact of the crash stole my breath away. In that singular moment of chaos, there was no pain, only an overwhelming stillness that enveloped me. I felt weightless as darkness consumed my senses, and then, time seemed to slip away, lost in an infinite void. I was neither here nor there. I had stepped into a realm where rules of reality ceased to exist. It was there, in that disorienting space, that I encountered a presence so radiant that my heart trembled at its near ineffable warmth. It was Jesus. He approached me. Yet it wasn't just a meeting, it was an awakening. "You wander, seeking truth in the shadows," he spoke. "But I am the light that pierces through all darkness." In that moment, I was not only a broken man, but a mere reflection of humanity itself. Lost, searching, desperate for meaning in a chaotic world. He then allowed me to see visions. Each scene unfolded like a tapestry woven from the fabric of my life, interlaced with fears, regrets, and moments of fleeting joy. Every flash bore a weight that pulsated with a divine urgency, revealing the hidden agendas of those in power, the elite crafting narratives that divide and conquer. As I watched, Jesus whispered, "You see the chains that bind humanity, but understand, the battle is not just out there, it rages within every soul." With every vision came the understanding that wars, both literal and ideological, were merely reflections of the deeper spiritual war happening in unseen realms. I witnessed the devastation caused by greed, the manipulation of technology to control the masses, and the insidious nature of deception that permeated our existence. The realization dawned upon me: these weren't just distant political maneuvers, they were intertwined with my own consciousness. I understood how the suffering of many served the cruel designs of a powerful few, each deliberation designed to keep us asleep, blind to the reality of a grander purpose. The urgency in his voice propelled me forward. It was as if my own awakening hinged upon recognizing the pain that linked us all. Each revelation was a call to arms, igniting a yearning inside me to share what I had learned. As I returned from that near-death experience, I found myself forever altered. The world around me seemed saturated with a sense of desperation. The faces of those I passed reflected a collective longing for truth that echoed in my own heart. Conversations became tinged with an unspoken need for connection, for awakening. I began to connect with others who felt it too, the unrest, the unanswered questions. Together we spoke of a reality manipulated by a hidden agenda, where leaders professed peace, yet prospered on the ruins of warfare. Our gatherings transformed into sacred spaces where we dared to utter the name of Jesus, who had become a symbol of hope in the face of despair. Yet even as our efforts seemed to blossom, I grappled with an unsettling foreboding. The weight of responsibility pressed down upon me as the world edged closer to turmoil. The spiritual war was not a distant fight. It bore down on us daily, encouraging complacency and complicity in our silence. I recognized that the truth was a heavy torch, and the burden of revealing it could no longer be borne alone. Each day I was met with revelations that felt increasingly urgent. Was it enough to merely seek truth for ourselves? I couldn't ignore the cries of those still ensnared by the darkness. The battle against the deception wrapped around many hearts demanded action, and in the depths of my conviction, I realized, what if we could be the catalyst for a broader awakening? What if we could ignite a fire that spread from heart to heart, illuminating the very truth that calls us to rise? There was so much at stake, the fate of our souls resting in the balance as the elite continued to weave their web of control. From the moment Jesus touched my spirit, I felt that pushing tide of revelation urging me to speak, to share the divine messages entrusted to me. His words echoed in my being, "Awake, you who sleep, and arise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." I sensed it, the perilous edge upon which our society teetered. A collective awakening was desperately needed, yet the shadows loomed ever closer, filled with uncertainty and fear. How could I not act? The urgency resonated through my very core, propelling me to face the tumultuous road ahead. As I stood at the edge of a crumbling brick wall, the weight of years pressed down on me like the thick air before a storm. I was just an ordinary man, a truck driver, navigating the endless highways of America. My life was a string of regular moments, the hum of the engine, the solitude of long stretches, and the laughter of my kids during fleeting weekends. But deep within me, there lingered an unshakable sense that something was far from right, not just in my life, but in the world around me. On that fateful day, I had driven an extra load to meet a deadline, my focus fractured by worry when fatigue struck like a hammer. I remember the screech of tires, the shattering glass, and then darkness. In that silence, there came a pull, a weightlessness that transcended the chaos I had known. I felt a surge of energy wrap around me, lifting me from the wreckage that had confined me. Suddenly, I found myself in a vast expanse, a shimmering realm filled with light and warmth, unlike anything I had ever experienced. And then, he emerged, a figure radiant and full of grace, a presence that flooded my heart with comfort and overwhelming love. It was Jesus, standing before me, his eyes filled with an understanding that went beyond human comprehension. "You've been searching for truth," he said softly, "and now it's time for you to see." In that moment, the world as I knew it shattered into shards of illumination. I was shown layers of reality, truths hidden beneath the facade of everyday life. He revealed the spiritual war that raged not just within each individual, but across nations, an unseen battle fueled by deception, orchestrated by the elite. I could hear the whispers of manipulation, the chaos stemming from decisions made in darkened rooms and boardrooms, where leaders collide against the backdrop of human suffering. Each truth he shared felt like a dagger to my soul, digging deep into the fabric of existence. My heart raced as visions of future conflicts and struggles for power unfolded before me, exposing the hidden agenda that seemed to govern our world. As the vivid scenes played out, I felt the urgency in his voice. "Look, my son," he instructed, guiding my gaze to the millions entrapped in a cycle of despair, blinded by the very systems designed to protect them. War was no longer just a distant concept. It was a palpable force, constantly encroaching upon the sanctity of life. I saw communities, divided neighbors turned against each other, all orchestrated by the lies spun by those who seek to control and suppress the truth. Awareness washed over me, a realization that the awakening of humanity was not just a gentle call. It was a desperate shout against the storm that raged just beyond the veil of perception. Every revelation was a seed planted deep within my spirit, igniting a fire of both horror and hope. I glimpsed technology advancing at a breakneck pace, reshaping society, but simultaneously facilitating the grip of control over our lives. Leaders professing peace while plotting division, a world blinded by comfort amidst a smokescreen of anguish. How many were lost to this deception? How many souls remained in chains, not realizing that the liberation they sought was within reach? Jesus' voice echoed with authority and love, transcending all my doubts. "You must awaken others. You must shine the light on the truth." As the enormity of this mission settled upon my heart, I could feel the weight of responsibility bearing down on my soul. I was being called, not merely to bear this truth alone, but to share it. A daunting task in a world so steeped in lies and fear. I could sense the push and pull of conflicting forces stirring, and though my heart surged with a desire for change, it was accompanied by a chilling reminder of the darkness that sought to silence those who would speak. Who could I trust? Who would dare to awaken from the slumber designed to keep us complacent? The tension within me grew, each heartbeat echoing the urgency to act, to spread these revelations as the light began to dim, leaving shadows that threatened to overtake us all. I lay on the cold hospital bed, tubes connected to my body, machines beeping eerily in the silence. I had always considered myself a practical man, a truck driver who spent long nights on the road, away from the chaos of the world. Life had been simple, defined by the steady rhythm of the engine and the of tires against asphalt. But that night, everything changed. The rattle in my chest felt wrong, and as I collapsed in the cab of my truck, I could sense the darkness creeping in, pulling me away from the light. As I drifted into unconsciousness, the world around me faded, replaced by an ethereal realm. I was enveloped in a warmth that defied description, a light that illuminated my very being. In that space, time lost its hold, and I felt an overwhelming presence drawing nearer. I looked up to see him, Jesus, standing before me. His eyes were filled with compassion, and I felt the weight of my life's choices reflected back at me. In that moment, I understood that this was not simply a personal reckoning, but a glimpse into something far greater, a revelation unfolding. He spoke softly, but each word resonated within me like thunder. "You've been granted a vision of the truth that lives beneath the surface," he said, and with those words, images flooded my mind. I witnessed leaders manipulating conflicts, their greed forcing countless souls into suffering. War was not just the absence of peace, it was a carefully orchestrated play, with the elite pulling strings from behind a curtain of division and deceit. I saw families torn apart, not just by ideology, but by a hidden agenda that profited from chaos. My heart ached for those oblivious to the machinations at play, their lives reduced to pawns on a chessboard. As the visions cascaded through my mind, I was shown glimpses of a spiritual war raging, with souls caught in the crossfire, unaware of the battle for their very essence. I gasped in horror as I recognized the technology that had infiltrated our lives, the smartphones and screens that distracted us from the truth, diverting our attention from the greater good. The whispers of materialism drowned out the call to awakening. My spirit yearned for liberation, for others to see what I had seen. It struck me like a lightning bolt. Awakening wasn't just personal, it was a collective call for humanity. But amidst this revelation, a profound urgency filled my heart. I sensed that sharing these truths would not come without peril. I was still tethered to the earthly realm, my body fighting to keep me alive. But already, I could feel the shadows of doubt closing in around me. Using every ounce of will, I cried out for transformation, a plea for the strength to fight against the pervasive deception I had encountered. New paths were opening before me. But with those paths came an undeniable risk. Would it be worth it if I stood alone? In that moment, the weight of my mortal fears collided with my newfound mission. Eyes wide open, I understood that this battle was barely beginning. My breath came in short gasps, as if the veil between the worlds was thinning and would soon tear away completely. I felt the urgency to return, to warn others, yet the thought of navigating the world above, filled with ignorance and indifference, filled me with dread. Would they even listen? Would they recognize the truth buried within my experience? In this liminal space, I knew I had to return, not just for myself, but for all those still asleep in the shadows, waiting for someone to shine a light on what was hidden. As I drove my truck down the long stretch of highway, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange hue over the desolate landscape. It was routine work, the kind of life where the days bled into one another, marked only by the hum of the engine and the steady rhythm of the road. My mind often wandered, reflecting on the world I saw through my windshield. A society fractured by division, an elite pulling strings from the shadows, while the rest of us toiled under the weight of hidden agendas. I filled my thoughts with mundane worries. Bills, family, the aching loneliness of the long stretches alone. Little did I know, my ordinary existence was about to shatter. The accident came suddenly. A tire blew out, and in a heartbeat, the world spiraled out of control. Time lost all meaning as I felt the truck flip and twist in a chaotic dance. In that moment of impending doom, a profound stillness enveloped me. I was plummeting into darkness, but as I surrendered to the void, a brilliant light emerged, cutting through the shadows of my despair. There, in the luminescence, stood Jesus. His presence was overwhelming, imbued with a serenity that drowned out my fears. "You have been deceived," he said, and I felt every veil of ignorance lifting from my eyes. Images flooded my mind, war-torn landscapes, leaders draped in the fabric of false promises, technology wielded as a weapon to control thoughts and hearts. I saw the complexities of the world laid bare, the fabric of reality torn to expose the elite's grasp on humanity. It was a shocking revelation, one that left me breathless. The depths of manipulation stunned me as I understood the spiritual war raging around us. I felt called to awaken, to break free from the chains of complacency that bound my spirit. Yet, the urgency weighed heavily upon me, for how could I convey such astonishing truths in a world so eager to dismiss them? When I returned to my body, pain shot through me, but it was nothing compared to the battle stirring within my soul. I became a seeker, drawn to the truths I once overlooked. I ventured into online communities, discovering voices that resonated with my experience. The revelation ignited a fire in me, a need to uncover and share. This gospel cloaked in metaphor. I felt the pull of creativity, compelled to write poetry, layers of meaning folded into verses, weaving together the spiritual and the mundane. To some, they were simply dreams. To the spiritually awakened, they held truths profound and transformative. Each line birthed within me a deeper understanding of our existence, a connection to something greater than ourselves. I learned to read not only the words of the Bible, but the essence of life stitched through the fabric of our society, a narrative interwoven with themes of deception, awakening, and the relentless struggle for truth. I grappled with an overwhelming urgency to share this awakening, aware that time was of the essence. The spiritual turmoil emerging from my experiences pushed me to confront the political realities that governed our lives. I saw how the machinery of society operated to divide us further, how fear was perpetuated by those in power to maintain control. As I looked around, it became apparent that this awakening was not just personal, it was a calling for collective consciousness. Each revelation drew me deeper into the heart of our realities, revealing the echoes of wars waged on the battleground of our minds. I stood ready to confront the elite's deception, yet the risks were palpable. Would my voice be silenced as so many have been before? The tension built within me, igniting the fire of conviction. I knew this journey would lead me to dark corners of resistance. The hidden agendas unfolding before me left me asking what lay ahead, not only for me, but for humanity at large. I remember the life I led before everything changed, an unremarkable existence as a truck driver. Each day was a blur of highways stretching into the horizon, the hum of the engine lulling me into a rhythm. I'd wake up before dawn, the cold air biting at my skin as I loaded my rig with boxes and freight, driving coast to coast, feeling disconnected from everything beyond my windshield. And yet, in my solitude, I found a strange comfort, a small world escape from the noise of a world determined to move too fast. I had my routine, my favorite radio shows, and the occasional call with my wife who'd offer me updates on our children. Life rolled on until it didn't. That fateful day, a sudden storm engulfed the road. Winds howled like a banshee, rain hammered against the glass, transforming the once familiar road into a treacherous, waterlogged cascade. I remember gripping the wheel tightly, praying to make it home safe, to see my family again. In an instant, the truck skidded, the world outside spun into chaos. There was a screech of metal on metal, a blinding pain, and then nothing. I slipped away, sucked into an abyss I never expected to encounter. In that dark void, I felt a surge of energy pulling me upward. Suddenly, the storm disappeared, replaced by a soft light that enveloped me. I floated, hovering above my broken body, watching paramedics rush to the scene, their faces a blur of urgency and fear. I was detached, indifferent, as my life played out beneath me. It was in this transitory space that I first encountered him, Jesus, radiant and unfathomably loving. As he reached out, a warmth flooded me, dispelling every fear I had ever known. He looked into me, past the exterior layers, seeing the fears I carried and the doubts I nurtured. "You think you are only a driver," he said, his voice echoing in the depths of my soul. "But in reality, you are a warrior. In a greater battle, there is a spiritual war raging, one that is pervasive and insidious. The truths you blind yourself to are revealed to you now." As those words washed over me, a cascade of visions unfolded. I saw a world mired in deception, a tapestry woven by the elite pulling the strings from behind the curtain. Industries, societies, governments, they all manipulated the masses for power, for control, while war and division festered in their wake. I saw how technology had become an extension of that manipulation, a tool to distract us from our true selves, creating an illusion of connection, but reinforcing our isolation. He spoke of a hidden agenda, one that exploited our fears and desires, turning brother against brother, neighbor against neighbor. I witnessed leaders clad in false righteousness spouting lies, their weavings accepted as doctrine by the unsuspecting public. As I observed this chaos, I felt an urgency within me, a calling to awaken those who remained. Ignorant, to pull back the veil obscuring the terrifying reality. Prophecies of the future echoed through the void, portending a society spiraling into darkness if our eyes remained shut. I was struck by the weight of responsibility, the knowledge that my words held power, that poetry, something I loved, could be an agent of truth, awakening others from their stupor. But with this revelation came a harrowing realization. I would face tremendous opposition. Those who thrived in the shadows of deception would not take kindly to an awakening. As I descended back into my frail body, the clarity shifted into a tangible fear. I could sense their wrath even then, a chilling premonition of solitude that awaited me in the world I was re-entering. Still, the fire inside me burned bright, igniting a desire to spread the message I had received. As the paramedics coaxed my unresisting spirit back to life, my purpose shifted irrevocably. I was no longer merely a truck driver lost in the rush of life. I had a mission to wield the pen as a sword in a battle for the soul of humanity, daring to confront the hidden truths lurking in plain sight. But as I began to resurface, I couldn't shake the feeling that the greatest challenge was yet to come, calling me to embrace the darkness outside as I ventured back into a world teetering on the brink. I was just an ordinary truck driver, a man who spent long hours under the monotonous hum of the engine, hauling loads across vast stretches of highway. Life had its rhythm, each mile marked by the weight of responsibility, the familiar sights along the route, and the ache in my bones. I had a family, a wife who worried when I left, and 2 kids who needed me. I thought I understood the meaning of sacrifice, rolling from dawn until dusk, providing for them, believing that was my purpose. Then, one fateful night, everything changed during what was supposed to be just another drive. The storm came out of nowhere, sheets of rain pounded against my windshield. My grip tightened on the wheel as I fought against the elements roaring outside. But the darkness was relentless, and suddenly I lost control. The truck skidded, the world spun, and in the instant before impact, time stretched out and a profound silence enveloped me. I felt my spirit leave my body, my last breath escaping as everything faded to black. It was then that I found myself in a breathtaking realm of light, brighter than any sun, enveloped in a warmth that made my heart swell with an inexplicable sense of peace. Before me stood Jesus, radiant and full of compassion, his eyes reflecting the very truth of existence. In that moment, I understood that this was not merely a mystical experience, but a revelation, a series of urgent truths that would alter the course of my life. He began to show me visions, peeling back the layers of a society ensnared in a web of deception by those in power. I watched as leaders, cloaked in the guise of righteousness, orchestrated conflict across nations, driven by a hidden agenda that only served their selfish interests. They fed on fear, creating division among families and friends, manufacturing crises to distract the masses from the deeper truths of existence. As I floated in that divine light, the depths of spiritual warfare unfolded before me. I witnessed the struggle not just in the political arena, but within the very essence of humanity. Jesus revealed how technology, instead of uniting us, had been wielded as a weapon by an elite few aiming to create a compliant society, one where critical thinking and true connection became rare commodities. I felt the anguish of a world illuminated by artificiality, dragging us away from authentic relationships and spiritual depth. His voice pierced through the chaos, igniting a deep urgency. You must awaken, for the hour is late, and the world is blinded by deception. I felt the weight of countless souls caught in the throes of despair, longing for awakening yet shackled by ignorance. It was not just a personal revelation, it was a crisis calling for a collective response. The images played vividly, a future where spirituality could either lead us to liberation or deeper enslavement, depending on the choices we made. I saw the war being waged within hearts and minds, seen and unseen, urging me to spread this message. In the quiet of his presence, I sensed a shift within me, a warrior spirit awakening, a desire to rise above the slumber that had captivated so many. But just as soon as I began to grasp the magnitude of what I was witnessing, I was thrown back into my broken body, gasping for the breath I thought I had lost. My experience hadn't ended. It had only just begun. I lay on the cold ground, the metallic scent of blood mixing with the rain, and I knew I had been chosen to carry a message of truth and awakening. The shadows of my near-death experience lingered, entwined with the pulse of urgency coursing through my veins. The fight against manipulation and deception was far from over. It had only just begun. As I sat up, my heart raced with purpose. I had to share these revelations, to awaken others to the spiritual storm surrounding us, for time was fleeting and the reality of our world hung in the balance. The path ahead seemed fraught with challenges, yet an unwavering determination to ignite this truth burned in my soul. What would I do next? The answer lay just beyond the horizon, waiting to reveal itself. As I sit here now, reflecting on the enormity of all I experienced, there's something I must share with you. Have you ever felt a yearning deep within your soul, an echo telling you that there is more to our existence than what meets the eye? It's as if the universe itself is whispering to those willing to listen. There's a grand purpose, a cosmic dance unfolding right before us. I know now that we're all connected, woven together by threads of light and shadow, and that understanding is calling us to awaken. In the depths of that near-death experience, I was shown that not only was there a battle raging for my own spirit, but for the very soul of humanity. The forces trying to keep us blinded are powerful, but so too is the light we can all embody. If I learned anything from standing in the presence of Christ, it's that we have a profound responsibility to rise, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. We cannot afford to remain silent as the world edges closer to turmoil. Every moment is a choice, a chance to either turn a blind eye or ignite a spark of truth. So I invite you, what has your journey revealed to you? What unseen forces have stirred your heart, urging you to take that bold step into the light? Share your experience below. I want to hear from you. Your voice is powerful, and it matters now more than ever. As we reflect together, we create a tapestry of awakening, a chance to shine light into the very hidden corners of society where hope is needed most. If my story resonates with you, please take a moment to subscribe to Truth from Beyond and hit the notification bell. This journey is just beginning, and there's so much more to uncover. We're on the brink of profound revelations, and you'll want to be part of what lies ahead. In the next video, I'll be sharing another life-altering testimony of transformation through divine encounters, stories that can inspire us to stand against the tidal waves of deception. I'm Layla, and I thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, we are all seekers in this profound experience we call life. Keep your heart open, for the truth will find you when you're ready to receive it.